Imagine the most popular, untouchable girl in school. The kind of girl who has everything, the looks, the status, and a line of guys waiting for a single glance, leaning over and whispering in the ear of the school's biggest loser that she's been watching him in his sleep. Not in a creepy way, but in a way that felt like she owned his very soul. That was my reality. And it started with a secret so dark and a crush so intense that it ended up destroying the social hierarchy of our entire town. I'm standing there, heart hammering against my ribs, while Chloe, the queen bee herself, tells me that if I ever tell anyone about what's happening between us, she'll make sure I never walk again. But then she kisses me with a desperation that makes no sense. Was I wrong for letting this happen? Would you have risked your entire reputation, your safety, and your sanity for a girl who treated you like dirt in public, but worshipped you in private? I need you to tell me if I was a victim or the luckiest guy alive, because to this day, I still don't know. Let's go back to the beginning, before the chaos, before the threats, and before the secret that changed everything. My name is Leo, and in the ecosystem of Northwood High, I was a ghost. I wasn't just a nerd, I was the guy people used as a footstool. I spent my lunches in the back of the library, my weekends playing tabletop games, and my classes trying to be as invisible as possible. The library was my sanctuary, a place where the air smelled of old paper and silence was the only currency. I'd sit for hours in the back corner, near the oversized architecture books, sketching buildings that reached the clouds, places where people were judged by the strength of their structures, not the brand of their clothes. Then there was Chloe. Chloe wasn't just popular, she was legendary. She was the head cheerleader, the daughter of the wealthiest developer in the county, and she was dating Mark, the captain of the football team. They were the golden couple. I remember sitting in the cafeteria, watching them from 3 tables away, seeing the way she looked at him with such boredom, but then turning to the cameras or the crowd and flashing that perfect, $1,000,000 smile. She was the sun, and everyone else was just a planet caught in her gravity. Mark was the typical jock, loud and aggressive, using his size to take up more space than he deserved. I watched him shove freshmen into lockers and laugh, while Chloe stood by, her expression unreadable. I never in a million years thought our worlds would collide, but it started with a missing notebook. I had left my private sketchbook, the one where I drew architectural designs and admittedly, some pretty embarrassing superhero self-portraits, in the chemistry lab. When I went back to get it, the room was empty, or so I thought. Chloe was sitting at the back desk, flipping through my pages. My heart stopped. I expected her to laugh, to call Mark over, to make a TikTok mocking my drawings. Instead, she looked up at me with eyes that were red and puffy, as if she'd been crying for hours. She didn't say a word. She just pointed to a drawing I'd made of a lonely lighthouse and said, "This is exactly how I feel every single day." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there like an idiot, clutching my backpack straps. She stood up, walked over to me, and pressed the notebook against my chest. Her perfume smelled like expensive vanilla and something sharp, like ozone before a storm. "Don't tell anyone you saw me like this," she whispered, her voice cracking. "And Leo? Your lines are beautiful. You see things other people don't." From that day on, everything changed. It started with small notes left in my locker. She started getting possessive. If she saw me talking to Sarah, a girl from the debate team, Chloe would find a way to get Sarah disqualified or humiliated. She told me I was her secret, her little treasure, and that she didn't want anyone else touching what belonged to her. It was intoxicating and terrifying. One night, she told me she had a plan to leave Mark, but she needed me to help her do something extreme. She wanted to humiliate him at the homecoming dance, to expose who he really was, a cheater and a bully, and then she wanted us to come out as a couple. I was terrified. If I did this, I'd be the target of the entire school. But I loved her. I thought this was our Romeo and Juliet moment. I spent weeks gathering evidence, hacking into Mark's old cloud storage, perks of being a nerd, and finding the videos of him bullying younger kids and the texts he sent to girls in other schools. I had everything ready. But then the day before homecoming, I saw Chloe and Mark in the parking lot. They were kissing, and she was laughing, looking more in love than ever. My heart shattered. I realized then that I might just be a pawn in a much bigger, much crueler game she was playing. I started thinking about all the times she'd made me feel special, only to crush me in the hallway an hour later. Was every tear she shed in my room just a rehearsal? Was every secret she told me just a way to keep me on her leash? I went home that night and looked at the sketches I'd made of her. Hundreds of them, capturing the softness I thought only I could see. I felt like the biggest fool in the world. I stayed up until 4 a.m., going through every single recording I had on my phone. I realized that Chloe wasn't just venting to me. She was bragging. She spoke about her friends like they were chess pieces, and about Mark like he was a useful but annoying dog. And then there were the things she said about me. She called me her safe space. But in the same breath, she laughed about how I'd do anything for a single crumb of her attention. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was a master of psychological warfare, and I was just her latest casualty. But I wasn't going to go down without a fight. I spent the next day refining my plan, adding layers of context that she never saw coming. I realized that the only way to truly break free from someone like Chloe was to show the world the person she was when the cameras weren't rolling. The more I listened to those recordings, the more I realized she wasn't just manipulative. She was dangerous. She had plans for everyone, and I was just the one holding the tools. She had mentioned wanting to wipe the slate clean once she got to college, and it became clear that wiping the slate included getting rid of me too. She couldn't afford a nerd like me knowing all her dirty laundry once she moved on to bigger and better things. I was a loose end. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I was standing there with all the evidence that could ruin Mark, but I also realized that Chloe might be using me to do her dirty work while she kept her hands clean. I felt like a fool, a secret toy she played with when she was bored. Before I tell you what happened next, and how I turned the tables on both of them, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone through with the plan to help the girl you love? Or would you have walked away to save yourself from the fallout? Let me know, because what I did next changed my life forever. The night of the homecoming dance arrived. The gym was decked out in silver and blue. The music was thumping, and the air was thick with the smell of cheap hairspray and desperation. I had the flash drive in my pocket. The plan was simple. I was supposed to swap the senior memories slideshow with the video I had edited, the one that would destroy Mark's reputation and free Chloe. I saw her across the room, looking like a literal goddess in a silk dress. She caught my eye for a split second and gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. But then I saw Mark. He had his arm draped around her, and he leaned in to whisper something in her ear. She giggled, a real genuine-sounding giggle, and leaned her head on his shoulder. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I realized that Chloe didn't want to be with me. She wanted the power of being with Mark and the emotional safety of having me in her pocket. She wanted the nerd to worship her in the dark while she ruled the light with the jock. I wasn't going to be her secret anymore. I wasn't going to be anyone's secret. Instead of uploading the video of Mark, I did something else. I had spent those nights when Chloe was in my room recording our conversations. Not because I was a creep, but because I'm an architecture student. I record voice notes of my ideas all the time, and I'd often forgotten to turn the recorder off when she climbed through my window. I had hours of her trashing her best friends, her talking about how much she hated the school, and most importantly, her admitting that she was only staying with Mark for the social status and his father's connections. I edited a new video. As the lights dimmed for the senior tribute, the screen didn't show Mark's cheating. It showed a black screen with audio playing over the speakers. Chloe's voice filled the gym. Mark is a meathead, Leo. I can't stand the way he touches me. But his dad is the only reason my family is still in the country club. I'll keep playing the part until I get what I want. The gym went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Then, the screen flickered to life with a hidden camera clip from my bedroom. Just of her face, looking tired and spiteful, saying, "I love how easy it is to control you. You're like a little dog, Leo. Just keep doing my homework and keeping my secrets, and maybe I'll let you hold my hand one day." The reaction was unlike anything I had ever seen. It wasn't just a shock. It was a total collapse of her social empire. The girls she called idiots and placeholders were the first to stand up. Mark didn't even look at her. He just walked off the stage, leaving her standing there in the spotlight she worked so hard to maintain. But the real twist came later. After the video finished, I didn't hide. I walked right up to the stage. I looked Chloe in the eye in front of everyone. She looked small. For the first time, she wasn't the giant who owned the school. She was just a scared girl who had lied to everyone, including herself. "I'm not your dog, Chloe," I said, my voice echoing through the sound system. "And I'm not your secret anymore." The fallout was instant and violent. Mark turned to Chloe, his face a mask of pure rage. Her friends backed away like she had the plague. Chloe looked at me, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and a hatred so pure it chilled my blood. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just walked out of the gym, head held high, while the entire school hissed and booed. Mark tried to come for me, but the principal and the security guards were already there. In the weeks that followed, the social hierarchy of Northwood High didn't just shift, it imploded. Mark and Chloe broke up, obviously. Chloe's parents were so embarrassed by the country club comments that they ended up sending her to a private boarding school 3 states away. Mark lost his captaincy because the video I'd made, the original one, ended up getting leaked anyway by someone who found the flash drive I accidentally dropped. I became a pariah for a while, the guy who ruined the golden couple. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. People were afraid of me. They realized that the nerd in the corner was actually paying attention. And that gave me a power I never thought I'd have. The atmosphere at school became heavy. For the first time in years, the cliques broke down. People didn't know who to trust because they realized that everyone was keeping secrets. I watched from the sidelines as the popular kids scrambled to salvage their reputations, throwing each other under the bus just to stay relevant. It was pathetic but also liberating. I realized that the hierarchy was built on a foundation of sand, and all it took was one person telling the truth to make it all come crashing down. My life at home wasn't much better. Word got out about the bedroom recordings, and my parents were horrified. They didn't understand why I had let her in, why I had participated in such a toxic game. I couldn't explain it to them. How do you explain the feeling of being wanted by the most beautiful person you've ever seen, even if that person is a monster? I spent a lot of time alone, finishing my portfolio for college. I drew buildings that were strong and transparent, structures that had nothing to hide. I realized that my obsession with Chloe was just a distraction from my own loneliness. I didn't love her. I loved the idea that I mattered to someone who mattered to everyone else. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it was necessary for my growth. I began to understand that I had been complicit in my own misery. I had traded my self-respect for a secret, and that secret had nearly consumed me. I also saw the aftermath of the golden couple's fall. Mark, once the king of the school, was now a joke. Without Chloe to bolster his image, he was just an angry guy with no future. He tried to start fights, but nobody was intimidated anymore. The power dynamic had shifted so completely that the nerds and outcasts were now the ones who held the keys. We started our own clubs, our own social circles, and we didn't let anyone in who wasn't authentic. The school became a different place, quieter but more honest. I found myself talking to Sarah Moore. She was the first person to come up to me after the dance. She didn't ask about Chloe, she just asked if I was okay. That was the moment I realized what real connection looked like. It wasn't about drama or secrets or power. It was about someone actually seeing you and caring about your well-being. Eventually, the dust settled. I graduated and went to a top architecture school, far away from that toxic town. I learned that someone's public persona is usually a lie, and that crushes can sometimes be a form of manipulation rather than affection. Chloe reached out to me once, a year later. She sent me an email that just said, "You were the only person who actually knew me, and you're the one who killed me. I hope you're happy." I didn't reply. I just deleted it. She didn't realize that she was the one who killed herself by trying to live 2 lives at once. I wasn't the villain of her story. I was just the mirror she didn't want to look into. I spent my college years focusing on my craft, building a life that was based on merit and honesty. I met people who liked me for my mind, not for what I could do for their social standing. I even started a blog about the psychology of architecture, how the spaces we inhabit reflect the people we are. It became quite popular, ironically. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. I regret letting her into my head in the first place, but the exposure was a service to everyone involved. It forced people to be real, even if it was painful. I often think about that night at the homecoming dance. The music, the lights, the feeling of the microphone in my hand. It was the moment I took my life back. It was the moment I decided that I would never again be someone's secret. I realized that the true power isn't in being popular, it's in being free. Chloe wanted to own my soul, but in the end, I was the one who set it free. I learned that the strongest structures aren't made of marble or gold. They're made of truth. And truth is the only thing that can survive the storm. I hope Chloe found some peace, wherever she is, but I also hope she never tries to own anyone else again. People aren't possessions. We aren't lighthouses for someone else to use to navigate their own mess. We are the architects of our own lives. The moral of the story is that you should never let someone treat you like a secret just because they aren't brave enough to stand by you in the light. If someone truly cares about you, they won't hide you in the shadows or use your heart as a tool for their own gain. Don't be the secret crush of someone who isn't proud to walk beside you. I know some of you might think I went too far, that I should have just walked away without destroying her life. But when you're pushed into a corner for years, sometimes you have to burn the whole house down just to see the way out. You have to understand the level of psychological abuse she put me through. Knocking my books over at 10 a.m., and then telling me I was her soulmate at 11 p.m. That kind of whiplash changes a person. It makes you realize that the only way to win a rigged game is to stop playing by the rules. You have to be willing to lose everything to gain yourself. I'm proud of the man I've become, and I'm proud that I had the courage to speak up when it mattered most. Life is too short to live in the shadows of someone else's ego. Like this video if you think I did the right thing by exposing the truth, and subscribe for more stories where the underdog finally bites back. Also, I really want to hear from you. Have you ever been someone's secret? How did it end for you? Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story. Would you like me to generate a viral, high CTR thumbnail concept for this story?